The Philadelphia Phillies have dropped their 7th straight series opener. That's 14 losses in their last 19, but there's 50 games left on the season. We're talking about Game 1 of the Phillies-Dodgers and looking ahead to Game 2 here on PHLY Phillies Podcast. Coming soon. The Phillies pick up another L in LA. One bad inning from Nola, giving up 4 runs in the 3rd inning, led to another series opening loss. Welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast presented by Bet365. You can download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365.
I lost my parlay last night. Damn it, Nola.
So with that, let's look ahead. We've got today lots to talk about, recapping Monday's late night game between the Phillies and Dodgers. We're going to get into the offensive struggles. We're going to get into Nola. We'll talk to pinch hit or not to pinch hit. Plus, we'll look ahead at game number 2 with Cristopher Sanchez on the mound. And then we've got Jim Salsbury also joining us at 11:30 to weigh in with his thoughts in the chat. You guys are already here. Starting to share your thoughts. Chris Slemmer, Frank, BC, Provolone John. And of course, we've got to get into today what all this means for the playoffs, because there's a lot of playoff implications on the line with this series. First things first, guys. Yesterday was another loss for the Phillies. 7 series in a row they've lost the series opener. Tyler Zulli, Jamie Lynch, myself, Renee Washington. Let's talk it over. Now, when you think about yesterday's game in comparison to others, the only difference that I do have is that actually was a good game. It wasn't as it was still a lot of frustrating things that made you want to bang your head against the wall. But the Phillies were in the game. The Phillies actually showed up, a little bit more.
Some people did, yep.
Some people did.
Nick
Definitely
Castellanos
Nick.
did. Garrett
Thank
Simpson,
goodness
no.
for Nick. Bryson Stott. Kyle Schwarber, some guys showed up. It wasn't the whole team. But we still haven't seen the Phillies look like the Phillies. And the slump continues. And yesterday was a winnable game. And the Phillies now have had 14 losses in the last 19 games. Of course, with 66 wins on this season, they are now just a half game ahead of the Dodgers in terms of standings.
Which is pretty impressive how good they were.
I know.
You're still got the NL lead, and you've played 3 weeks of shit baseball.
Yeah.
To your point, last night was probably, of the last 3 weeks, one of the lesser aggravating losses, but still incredibly frustrating. It wasn't pathetic. Now, the problem with the Phillies since the All-Star break, they haven't won a game where they didn't shut out their opponents.
I know. Yeah.
Let me just repeat that in case you think you heard that wrong. The Phillies since the All-Star break have not won a game where they haven't shut out their opponent. How is that possible?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a bad streak right now, but that bad that you need shutouts or you can't win?
Well, it's also the 5th time. You talk about the All-Star break. It's the 5th time.
Yeah, I'm serious.
It's the 5th time in 16 games since the All-Star break that the Phillies scored first and lost. And as we know, that's been one of the strong parts of the Phillies' success this season. They were 45-15 in the first half of the season when scoring first. And since then have drastically dropped. And now to see them continue to have, for series openers alone, and I have the 7 series openers that they've lost, to get outscored 53-21 in series openers, they've lost about 5 leads that they've blown. 2 of those leads they blew in the Pirates game because they were up 3 runs twice against the Pirates in that series opener. But they've had some really bad series first losses. And then yesterday was unfortunately not a bad loss, but when you put it with all the other losses that we've seen as of late, It's just like the Phillies can't find ways to win. And instead, to set the tone of a series yet again, you have a chance. You're in LA. You're going up against the Tyler Glass now, Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers, who everybody's expecting to beat the Phillies, especially after the Phillies swept them earlier this season. And you go out and you have a chance to still win the game. It actually was not a perfect game. The Phillies still had the offensive struggles. Even with the third inning, the bad third inning by Aaron Nola, they still could have won the game. And I think the craziest thing about how they've been losing is you look back at some of these recent losses, 8-7 to the Pirates where they had 2 3-run leads, 5-3 last night. So many losses that we've seen from the Phillies that even with them playing poorly, the offense struggling, pitching struggling, they still could win the game with 1 or 2 late game changes. Garrett Stubbs getting, you pinch it for Garrett Stubbs, whatever, little changes that might make the difference. But yet again, here we are talking about another Phillies loss. It's been 26 days. It was since the Phillies swept the Dodgers. And since then, a lot has
like
changed.
Year.
It does. A lot has changed. They haven't won 2 straight games since July 10th and 11th, again, against the Dodgers in that series. Since that series, they haven't even won back-to-back games. They've been... You win a game, you start to think they're coming out of the slump, like we felt like after Sunday, and then they turn around and lose the next day. You can't get any sort of vibes, momentum, confidence going if you are just continuing to drop games back to back to back to back to back.
Yeah, I mean, last night was frustrating because Aaron Nola was bad for 1 inning, like really bad. Really, really, really bad, where the Dodgers just teed off on him. The exit velocities in that inning were like 108, 115, 112, 109. Like, that just tells you his ball was flat. And then it was funny, actually. I tweeted it and I texted a couple buddies after the blow-up inning, and I go, all right, everybody buckle up because this is going to be a classic Nola start where he caps the damage, keeps it to 4 runs, the Phillies hang in the game, abandon a bunch of people with runners in scoring position, and come up just short, 4-3. And if it wasn't for the late Shohei bomb, it would have been exactly that, where the offense couldn't capitalize. They kind of got close. They left a couple guys on base, although it wasn't like pure torture left on base. And they just couldn't get it done. And Nola was, okay outside of that 1 inning. He was almost good. He didn't have a great stuff in the beginning. Tyler and I were talking about it before the show, before you got here. And it was just like he buckled down, he got through it, he kept you in a chance to win the game. But this offense right now can't out-hit anyone. Yeah. And it was frustrating, but at least you were in the game. That's how bad this cold streak is. Yeah. Where you're like I'm agitated, and we'll get into the non-pinch hitting and Garrett Stubbs and some of the other frustrating stuff and the umpires. But I went, okay, I'm really agitated. Yeah. But at least they had a chance. Yeah. And that sucks.
That's where we are now.
That's like where atrophy. We are. It's like sports atrophy. You're like, well, they fought.
Yeah, they fought hard. Great. Yay. No, I mean, as you talk about, we all saw the third inning, the struggles for Aaron Nola to give up 4 runs. You're 7-8-9. You give up hits, and you see Aaron Nola struggling to find his location.
Do you know what 7-8-9 hitters are hitting versus Nola this year? The other team 7, 8, and 9 hitters. Anybody want to take a guess?
I actually didn't.
7, 8, 9 hitters.
The way you phrase that makes me think it's a lot better than it should be.
Yeah.
Now this wasn't. I didn't look at it after the game last night. I looked at it in game after the damage was done. 7, 8, 9 hitters are hitting 330 versus Aaron Nola. It's
definitely 3 something. Okay.
7, 8, 9 hitters are hitting 330. Now that may have dropped or inflated some, but general ballpark. So that's not good, Renee.
That's not good.
That's not good. And that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense.
Yikes. 330. In his 96 pitches last night, 63 strikes for Nola and 6 innings pitched. When you have such a, the first 2 innings were good. Third inning was not good. Again, you're missing on your location. You're giving up a lot of hard contact as you talk about the velocity of Andy Pages and Shohei Ohtani and different guys that in that third inning. And then you blow a 2-run lead. And for Aaron Nola, we saw him. His fastball was missing. He was hanging a few breaking balls. He just had a really bad inning. And it's unfortunate because we were just talking about yesterday with Zach Wheeler's performance on Sunday, how much we hoped that would carry over into Aaron Nola. And if you really think about it, had we gotten a little bit more of a Zach Wheeler performance out of Nola Monday night, you don't blow that lead. Maybe you give up one run, maybe even a tying run, but you have that third inning, less damage in the third inning. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, you don't know what'll happen because on the other side, the offense has been struggling. But that is why now more than ever, the pitching has to do their part. I hate to say it, it's more pressure on them that they need to be lights out because the offense is non-existent right now. And to have Aaron give up 4 runs, and then on top of that, Tyler Glasnow goes and retires 10 straight Phillies batters. Nobody can get a hit until Kyle Schwarber finally breaks through in the 6th. You're thinking, oh, a glimmer of hope. It's 4-3, and then they go right back. Over.
I at no point expected them to win the game, sadly.
The sad part that I feel like at this point, and I don't know if you guys in the chat agree, and if you guys, Tyler and Jamie, agree, I have gotten to a point like once the Phillies go down, I don't care what inning it is that they go down. When they go down, it feels like it's over. Yeah. Because they haven't been able to come back. They've been blowing leads, but when you also look at their recent performances, how many times have they come back? We saw that in the first half of the season. Down 2 runs, 3 runs, whatever the score is, you always knew, okay, the Phillies got this. They're going to come back.
Yeah,
some late game heroics.
They never
the
quit.
Resilience was there. Now they go down, and I'm like, well, that's game. Yeah. We'll try again game number 2.
I mean, apparently they can only win shutouts. That's not a good formula.
And that's not good because they're not getting shutouts.
If you want a little bit of positivity from last night, at least Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola allowed the bullpen to get fresh. Yeah. Aaron Nola did end up going with Cake Eater, Adam Banks, 8 innings.
Yeah.
So anybody not named Banks is pretty much refreshed and ready to go. I know people don't really care about positives right now, but that was a slight one. So if you don't care about W's and L's and just care about your bullpen getting refreshed and ready, that's something for you.
Yeah.
Tanner Banks has been Adam Banks, Cake Eater. He's been pretty good. I have his log here. Luke Arancini tweeted this last night. Arciani? Actually, Luke, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I apologize. But his first,
I feel like Arciani or Arciani.
Arciani? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
His first 4 innings with the Phillies. 4 innings pitched, 0 hits, 1 walk, 3 Ks. It's resulted in a line out, a ground out, a fly out, a strikeout, a line out, a ground out, a walk off, a walk, which he then picked off. Strikeout, line out, ground out, ground out. So he's been really good so far in a very limited sample size.
Honestly,
we got that going for us.
Yeah, I actually don't put anything on. Well, I don't put it on him yesterday. I mean, you brought him in with the expectations. He was going to be an innings eater. He was going to be a reliever that you can bring in and be steady, and he has been. He's not your traditional like closer or anything like that or high leverage guy, but
he's a lefty specialist.
I think for what we expected for him coming in, he's actually performed. And to be honest, everybody that the Phillies have brought in so far, Austin Hayes, we saw Carlos Estevez.
He was good again last night, 2 hits.
Tanner Banks, they have all done their part.
How are we feeling about the Cake Eater nickname?
I don't like that.
Well, that's because you didn't get the reference. So you're kind of out on this. Tyler, you got the reference. What do you think about Cake Eater?
That was peak my childhood, was Mighty Ducks, Sandlot, all of that.
You're not pro Cake Eater?
I think I'm out.
I don't like,
but he's not. He's
Cake Eater.
Adam Tanner. But he's not Adam. That's the thing.
Yeah, I know,
if
but
he
it's
were
close.
Adam, then sure.
But Banks.
No.
Cake Eater.
Yeah,
Banks was on the back of the jersey.
You're just using the last name, though.
Yeah, I know. But Adam and Tanner, like, they kind of roll off the tongue.
Like, what if it was one of the most common last names? Like, let's say this guy, there was a movie character with the last name Smith.
Yeah.
And he just happened to have the last name Smith. You would just associate?
I think the first name's close enough.
Nope.
All right, fine. Cake Eater's out.
You give Renee enough crap for her nickname.
Yeah, like Cake Eater?
Okay, I accept
Cake
the court's...
Eater? That's so inappropriate.
I accept the court's rulings.
It only works in the movie. It doesn't work in hey, Cake Eater.
Does that mean he was a rich boy because he ate cake? Cake's pretty affordable. Unless you're getting the fake. Right? I mean, Banks was the rich kid from across the district lines. Charlie was the city kid with the single mom.
So according to Google,
does that mean he was rich?
Cake Eater.
A rich person who is spoiled, self-indulgent, or greedy.
Yeah. I mean, that's a little unfair, Banks. Just because his parents were in a different tax bracket.
He was a little bit of a jerk to start the movie.
He didn't want to be on the docks.
All right, Mighty Ducks.
He left a powerhouse. He's like the guy that got traded from the Dodgers to the White Sox.
Oh, no.
That's basically what he is.
I will say, shout out to James Alexander III, who mentioned, I'm changing the topic, how he's excited to meet us at the watch party on August 29th. We're looking forward to seeing you then, too. Going to be lots of fun to be able to hang with you on that August 29th day.
And where is that going to be, Renee? And how can I find out more information?
Da-da-da. If you guys are curious about the details of that event happening August 29th, here it is. Oh,
don't tell me there's going to be $1 Miller Lite and $1 hot dogs.
We're going to have some Miller Lite specials, some delicious. There it is. August 29th, 6:30 p.m. Join us as we're going to be having our live pregame and postgame show. We also have a watch party that's happening all at the Top Tomato as the Phillies will take on the Braves. Hopefully the Phillies are on top of the standings still by the time we get to August 29th. You guys can hang with us. Be sure to register today on our website, allphly.com. James Alexander III will be there, and so will we.
$1 Miller Lights, I might just buy a couple for people.
We've got some great deals.
In this economy, it's like free beer.
You get a beer, and you get a beer.
And then I know Frank Barber is asking you, Jamie, if Shohei won the parlay on the game last night.
He didn't. I had a Glasnow over. This was on Bet365, and they had a 50% profit boost. I went Glasnow over 7.5 Ks. I went Nola over 5.5 Ks, which missed. Thank you, Aaron. I had Shohei 1+ bases. I had Bohm 1+ bases, which both hit. But then I had the juicer. The Phillies were plus. I think I got them at plus 375 to win the game. So that obvious. I missed a 5-leg parlay. I missed 2 legs. You know, you got to throw some darts sometimes.
Yeah, you do. You do. I appreciate the fact that you were close.
I had my bonus bets expiring, so I was like in the lab yesterday throwing in a bunch of long shot home run parlays.
Yeah.
I threw in a ton of NFL futures because my bonus bets was expiring, and I didn't realize that. So I was like, oh my God, I got all this money to spend. So I did some futures and had a good time. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Always can help you have a good time. That's our friends over at Miller Lite. And you can have a great time with some Miller Lite. We're going to be having Miller Lite specials at Top Tomato August 29th. And you guys can enjoy some delicious Miller Lite yourselves. With Miller Lite, you get everything you need and want, and you don't have to worry about all the calories. It's the great taste of Miller Lite, and it's the best light beer. For decades, Miller Lite has been providing you with the taste of a delicious, refreshing, cold Miller Lite, knowing that you're not going to have to deal with all the calories and that heavy feeling. That's one of my biggest pet peeves about drinking beer. Miller Lite keeps it simple, and they also strip away everything that you don't need and just give you exactly what you want and hold on to most. The less filling, only 96 calories per beer, and that light beer that tastes like beer. You guys can enjoy some delicious Miller Lights, not just on August 29th when you join us for those Miller Lite specials and Dollar Dogs, but also every day, anytime, anywhere, because Miller Lite can get delivered to your door. We love the convenience of that. You don't have to choose what's best. With Miller Lite, you get the great taste. It's less filling. It tastes like beer, and you get the convenience. Because to get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, you can visit MillerLite.com/PHLY Phils, or you can find it pretty much anywhere you are purchasing beer. You can celebrate responsibly with Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Again, 96 calories per 12 ounces, fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer. And we love our Miller Lite here, and so do you. Enjoy that Miller Lite yourself. It's both, guys. Go out, get some Miller Lite. Get some Miller Lite. And especially these days with the Phillies losing, you need to crack open a nice Miller Lite to drink away the pain.
Yeah, I like that guy's face that yells "It's both" in the commercial. I think that's. But what like
that's.
And who was it? Big Papi versus Jorge Posada. Is that what it is? With Luke Wilson?
Yeah, I like it. It's a great commercial. Shout out to Miller Lite for not only giving you great beer, but giving you great advertising.
It's both. And Bet365, let me just tell you about them because it's never ordinary at Bet365. Right now, when you sign up, download the app and use code PHLY365. I took a couple long shot parlays last night and a bunch of NFL futures because I got $150 in bonus bets when I lost a simple $5 wager after a $10 deposit. So I threw in a bunch of futures for the NFL season. I took Jalen Hurts over 21.5 touchdowns. I took the Eagles to win the NFC at plus 600, I believe it was, off the top of my head. Tons of stuff to browse and have fun with. They have more NFL futures than any site I've seen before. So that was really fun. In baseball, if you bet, let's say, the Phillies tonight, and they go up by 5 runs in the game, guess what? You get cashed out early. They're going to give you the win no matter what. Even if the Phillies blow it with their bullpen late, if they go up 5 or the Dodgers go up 5 and you bet on that team in the baseball game, you're going to get cashed out early. And that's what they mean by it's never ordinary. New customers right now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 using code PHLY365. Deposit $10 and claim your offer. They don't do ordinary at Bet365. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets and give you a chance to win more than 10,000 boosts every single month. They boost specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. So keep an eye out for our custom bets coming soon at PHLY Bets and Boosts. So download the Bet365 app, use that code PHLY365 when you sign up, and check out our boosts and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, well, last night we definitely got quite some moments. One of the moments that was a positive, very emotional. I know I was getting sappy and tearing up for sure watching Freddie Freeman's return after 10 days
really
missing. Cool. And to get the standing ovation, the Max Strong shirts that everybody was rocking for the Dodgers. And I know Bryce Harper embraced him, as Frank Barber is mentioning in the chat. As we talked about yesterday, it's bigger than baseball. His little boy, Max, 3 years old, should not have to be strong. Yeah, should not be dealing with this. And I know Freddie was mentioning how he has to relearn everything. It's just heartbreaking to hear what Freddie, Chelsea, and Max are going through. And our hearts go out to them. Hashtag Max Strong for sure. But for the game itself, it's not only is it bigger than the series in the sense of who's the best, but when you look at what this series is going to provide moving forward, I hate to use the P word, guys, but it does have playoff implications. Because the Phillies swept the Dodgers in the first series, they actually have the ability, they just need to win one game this series. One game this series will help the Phillies be able to get the upper hand on the NLCS if it were to come down to Phillies Dodgers of who gets home field advantage. So the tiebreakers, of course, you hope you don't even have to have a tiebreaker, but if it were to come down to a tiebreaker, if the Phillies win just one game this series, again, they would get the head-to-head tiebreaker because they would have won the season series. If the Dodgers sweep, and then it comes down to any tiebreakers, the Phillies would still have the edge as of now because they have the better record against the NL East, which is the next tiebreaker after head-to-head. So it's sad to even have to think about this. And I know Nick Castellanos and Aaron Nola and Rob Thompson, different people were asked post-game about if they've been paying attention to the standings. And of course, they all said no, because they shouldn't have to pay attention to standings. That's not your job. Just focus on, as Nick was saying, like, we're just focusing on, or at least for me, he's like, the next game. More baseball tomorrow. There's 50 games left in the regular season. The Phillies should not have to think about all the tiebreakers and what happens if this happens in this tie. And no, just win outs, win games, and you don't have to even worry about tiebreakers. But unfortunately, we can talk about the reality of this is home field advantage also on the line. Like, as much as you want to win this series, because after dropping 6 straight, you got to get back into a series win. This is also huge for NLCS home field advantage, and just to have a chance to make sure that you're taking care of the little details in the event that they continue to have this awful second half of the season.
Yeah, you certainly don't want to be in Chavez Ravine in an NLCS Game 7. You'd much rather be at the best home field advantage in baseball. The reality is, if I had to bet right now, I would bet the Dodgers to be the number 1 seed. I mean,
I know
they're getting Mookie Betts and Max Muncy back shortly. Yamamoto's throwing bullpen sessions, so he's getting back. Walker Buehler's coming back. They're getting a bunch of guys healthy. And the Phillies are trending the wrong way. I do think the Phillies are going to snap out of this. Do I rule out the possibility of, playing like 28 and 22 baseball the rest of the way? Not really.
Yeah.
But I'm not encouraged or confident to tell you right now that they can do that. So I think in all likelihood, they're going to lose home field advantage in the NL. And that sucks.
It does. I mean, you can't expect to win games if you're not scoring runs. And as much as we talk about home field advantage and playoffs, at the end of the day, the offense hasn't been there. And so I agree with you. Like, I don't feel optimistic about this team in the next 50 games because you look at the last 3 games. At least in terms of being better than the Dodgers. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. The last 3 games, the Phillies have scored a total of 14 runs. They've actually scored 4 or more runs in 5 of their last 7 games. One of the positives that we had started to see from them is that they started to score 5+ runs per game and winning games and holding on to leads. And they haven't been able to do that. They've lost, again, 5 of their last 7 when scoring 4 or more runs, which sounds weird because the offense is struggling, but the offense is struggling in big moments. You score the first 2 runs of the game yesterday. You're up 2-0. You have the 3rd inning struggles where Aaron Nola gives up 4 runs. And now it's a 4-2 game. Your offense has to answer back. We've been seeing the Phillies do a good job of answering back. That's been one of the positives. They give up runs. They've been notoriously scoring that next inning, tying the game up, closing the gap. They haven't been doing that as of late. It's been you give up runs and the offense goes silent. 10 straight hitters retired before Kyle Schwarber finally got a hit. Unacceptable. And you need your offense to step up and support especially for run support in general, to help your pitching staff out. And unfortunately, it feels like the Phillies offense has gone to sleep in big moments when you need them and hasn't been able to show up. And I know we'll talk about it with Jim Salsbury in a moment when he joins us, but it's unacceptable when you look at how they've been able to score first and then just go silent the rest of the game.
Well,
honestly.
some of that is their approach. And last night was probably the second time in the last week where Nick Castellanos has given you the best at-bat on the team. The other night he works a 15 pitch. Did he end up walking on that? I'm trying to remember. I think he got out. I think he popped out.
Yes.
But a 15 pitch at bat, really deflating stuff for the opposition pitcher. Last night in the 9th inning, he leads you off, gives you another really good at bat. Sends the ball to right field, does the veteran, at bat that you need in the 9th to kind of have some doubt set in with the pitcher. And then what do the next 3 batters do for the Phillies? Nick Castellanos just works the pitcher, has a great at-bat, gets on base. And what do they do? 3 swings on first pitches in a row.
Bing, bing.
Garrett Stubbs being the last of them. He shouldn't even been at bat. I don't know what the hell Rob Thompson was doing there. But 3 first pitch swings after Castellanos worked them.
Yep.
And that type of stuff just makes your blood boil. And Garrett Stubbs should not have been at bat.
No.
I understand you want to give JT Realmuto the days off. And I listened to Rob after the game, and he said, I have to protect him from injuries and get him healthy and this and that. That you waved the white flag last night by not sending Weston Wilson up to bat. Now, there's probably an 85 to 90% chance that you're not going to win the game there, and it's not going to have an effect on it. But guess what? If you possibly go up a run or you tie the game to send it to extras potentially, guess who's going to be clamoring at the bit to play? JT Realmuto. Rob said he's not a good pinch hitter. I understand that. That's fine. Send Weston Wilson up there and deal with the repercussions of that decision if you tie or win the game.
Exactly.
They're just not at a point right now where you can concede a game like that. Garrett Stubbs is borderline unplayable. I mean, his OPS is down to 513. It's terrible. He's had 100 and almost 30 plate appearances this year, and his numbers are just dreadful. And I understand the backup catcher isn't going to make or break a championship team, yada, yada, yada. But, why are you not pinch hitting for him?
Bingo.
I don't get it. I think it was Matt Gelb asked Rob after the game, are you going to have second thoughts about that one? And Rob was like, yeah, probably, but JT's not a good pinch hitter, and I got to keep him healthy. And, what are you doing? Everybody in that dugout knew the game was over when Garrett Stubbs steps into the batter's box here. It's just you waved the white flag, and I hated everything about it. And
as you mentioned, in his 128 at-bats this season, his splits a 1.88, a .283 OBP, .227 slugging, and as you said, that .509 OPS. Garrett Stubbs offensively gives you nothing. I understand needing to rest JT.
That's fine.
To be honest, I wouldn't have rested. I would have played JT game 1. I just feel like this team you've dropped 6 consecutive series openers, and you have a chance to go out. You need to set the tone from game 1.
Yeah, it was kind of like a momentum point in the season. Yeah, go for it, man.
I would have played JT game 1, try to play JT game 2, and then you see about game 3 and see where the series is at that point. But you actually you reversed it. You start the series off on the wrong foot because you're not even really giving your guys a chance. Every at-bat for Garrett Stubbs is not going to give you anything. It's not going to help. It's a guaranteed out. And so to start off with this team that's already struggling in series openers, you needed to break that streak last night, and the Phillies were not able to do that. And it made it hard to even sleep last night, except for me, I passed out. And I'm not going to lie, guys, I passed out. I finished the game this morning, but I passed out. The Phillies were already down 4-3 at that point when I fell asleep. And when I woke up this morning, I still didn't feel like I got a good night's rest. But you know what? With our friends at Sleep Healthy PA, they're committed to helping you get a good night's rest. At Sleep Healthy PA, they're committed to stopping the snore for Philly residents and finding solutions to help sleep apnea that allow you to rest well and also improve your health. You need a good night's rest in order to help your body, get rejuvenated and replenish and heal and just feel better. And Dr. Andrew Cohen, who's board certified in dental sleep medicine, and his staff will work one-on-one with you to provide first-class care that will meet your needs. That's right. Let's get rid of the CPAP machine. Let's find other options for you. Let's figure out a better way to get and manage your sleep apnea so you can have a good night's rest. And if you are dealing with any sort of sleep apnea or CPAP machines, you can go to Dr. Andrew Cohen and his staff and take advantage of this opportunity when you tell them that PHLY sent you to get 15% off your initial workup. You're going to get a 2-hour initial exam split in 2 sessions, information gathering, medical history, and imaging. And then the second part will be reviewing those results to share recommendations. 50% of divorces, they say, snoring is a contributing factor, to why they get a divorce. So with Sleep Healthy PA, you can stop the snore. You can make sure to make your night's rest much better, as well as everybody around you, your spouse, your kids, your family. And if you are experiencing sleep apnea and are looking for a custom solution to stop the snore, reach out to Dr. Andrew Cohen at sleephealthypa.com or call 215-337-2501. And again, let them know that PHLY sent you.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to tell you about one of our new clients here at PHLY, and that's Rugged Road Coolers. Now, Rugged Road Cooler is made with the highest quality parts and materials, and it makes just a dynamite cooler made with the best materials, the best craftsmanship, which ensures a lifetime of a cooler surviving the toughest conditions. Whether you're in the land, the water, the mountains, Rugged Ruler is built to accompany you wherever you may go. Now, some of these other coolers out there, we won't name names. I've had one in the past. They weigh like 350 pounds. They're really bulky. They're tough to get around. One of the beautiful things about Rugged Road is their heavy-duty coolers that are incredibly light, making them easy to transport around. You want to take them down to a Phillies game to tailgate, a Birds game, whatever it may be. It's lightweight, so you're not going to kill yourself. Plus, they float. It's one of the unique features that they have as well is that they always float upright. So if you're a lake person, a bay person, a pool person, and you want that cooler close by, Rugged Road is for you. It's perfect for all your outdoor activities, from fishing and tubing to camping and tailgating. These coolers are designed to meet the needs of every outdoor or in sports enthusiast. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road Coolers. Reliable, durable, and built to be the best and used, Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use the code PHLY for 10% off.
All right. Well, that being said, we've got to get into recapping last night's game with our buddy Jim Salsbury, because I know in the chat you guys have tons of questions and thoughts on why the Phillies lost, where the Phillies lost the game. One moment that stands out, Jim, of course, unfortunately, it's always great to see you, but unfortunately not on great terms as we're still talking about the Phillies losing.
Is that a Roll Tide or an Arkansas shirt there, Jim?
It's Arkansas.
Arkansas, Jerry Jones, man.
Arkansas
All
baseball.
right.
Arkansas. So last night, Jim, game on the line. We saw Garrett Stubbs up to bat, 9th inning. Everybody's wondering why not pinch hit. I personally just feel like Garrett Stubbs shouldn't have gotten the start at all. It should have just been JT and let JT rest another day. Go and try to win that series opener. What were your thoughts on Rob's not pinch hitting for Garrett Stubbs? Would you have pinch hit for Stubbs in that situation?
I probably would have, but sent JT up there and take a whack. But what we're seeing here, and I don't know this for a fact, because they're very guarded with the way they do things, and the manager does all the speaking for the team, and he's the guy who raises his hand and takes accountability for everything. But I wonder, and part of me believes that the decision to rest him last night may have been made a couple weeks ago when he came off the injured list. There's so much sports science involved in professional sports today, and the Phillies are deep in it. And when a guy comes back, an important guy like that coming off knee surgery, though minor, but knee surgery just the same, I think they map out a plan for him. You're going to play, 2 on, 1 off, 3 on, 1 off, 4 on, 1 off. They map it out, and you're going to sit this day for maintenance, so you don't have a recurrence, so we can preserve you for the season, and so your recovery from knee surgery is optimized. And I'm not sure the manager has a lot of say with that. He takes the accountability for the lineup card, but again, I have a feeling coming off injury, a lot of this is scripted from upstairs, from in the medical department, from the sports science department. And I think that's what you probably saw last night. If he had used a different pinch hitter, and they extend that game to extras, JT's going to have to be in that ball game, and they wanted him to have a full day off. I know Rob will say that he thinks the off day is important for his number one catcher, and he wants to keep him off his feet. But I really believe there are more decision makers involved in that, and they are very committed to getting the guy a full day off. Now, if it was September and they're fighting for their playoff lives, maybe. But I also think some of their thinking in the moment is probably shaped by the fact that, they have a very good record. They're going to play in October, even regardless of how bad they've been lately. So I think there was some big picture thinking there. But I can see why it's frustrating to people who are sick of watching losses and people who wanted to see one of their better hitters get up there and take a poke with the game on the line in the ninth inning. Very frustrating to get a man on base and then basically 3 pop-ups, right? 3 first pitch swings.
3 first pitch.
Right? So
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense to you, but having observed
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
it makes a lot of sense.
having observed the team for a long time and kind of you listen to the way they talk and knowing that, the days of the athletic trainer running out and spraying the icy hot on the guy who gets hit on the wrist and packing guys in ice, those days are over. These, it's not just an athletic trainer, it's a medical department. And the athletic trainers are, they're medical professionals, and I really believe they script all this stuff, and the manager needs to follow it, especially when it's not September and you're not fighting for your playoff life.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. Jim, one of the things that doesn't make sense to me, and we've kind of touched on this briefly in the past. Now, the Phillies are in a cold streak here. We know that. But the umpiring, it seems like since the All-Star break, this is the second time now in 3 nights where a very critical pitch, you can't say that it would have changed the outcome of the game, but it was a critical spot. Estevez the other night and last night, Brandon Marsh's strike 2 call were atrocious. Just flat out terrible calls. What is the likelihood of a challenge system coming? From the tea leaves I've read this year, it doesn't appear like it's a given, but it seems like there's more demand than ever for it, and the umpiring is almost getting worse.
I don't know if the umpiring is getting worse. I think the box makes you think it's worse. When we didn't have the box, we probably didn't. He probably didn't jump out at you as much. A miss. There's a lot there. I mean, I don't know why Marsh didn't react a little bit to that pitch, because the Phillies at Dodger Stadium are in the first base dugout, and nobody really barked on that pitch either. At least what I could tell.
Rob should have gone out. I thought he should. I thought watching the game live that Rob should have left the dugout and gotten a piece of his ear, because it's happened too much.
You don't leave the dugout until you get thrown out. But
sure,
I was surprised.
Should have stood up, I should say.
I was surprised nobody started shouting from the dugout, because that was egregious. Now, you had a left-handed hitter. He might have been blocking the view a little bit from the first base dugout, and the hitter didn't really react, at least as I was able to see it. I think the hitter should have kicked a little bit there, kind of just wore it, and then nasty breaking ball off the plate and lefty on lefty. It's a tough pitch, and we know he has trouble with lefties, and the team chases a lot, and boom, strike three. It was an egregious miss, as was the Estevez call the other day. Now, Estevez missed his spot. He was set up and in, and he missed down and away. Nonetheless,
couldn't frame it. Yeah,
it's a strike. The umpire needs to be able to adjust because he's focused on where the target is, and it goes. Still, you gotta, both of those were critical calls. I don't think the umpiring is worse. I just think we have more technology that illuminates their misses more. And like everything, also with the technology, now we have replay basically all over the game. We have TVs all over the ballpark and replaying every close call. So everybody in the ballpark knows when the umpire blows a call. People in the boxes, the press box, the luxury suites, behind home plate, concession stands. This TV's everywhere. So, why not have the replay like we have? So the only guy in the ballpark that doesn't have access to at least get it right. And we've seen countless examples how it would change history. 85 World Series, the Galarraga perfect game. So we do have replay and ways to make calls right, correct human error, and it's coming. The challenge system is coming. It might not come in 2025.
What would be the delay? Is that the umpires union? Like, what is that holdup?
I don't think the umpires union has nearly the juice it used to have. It's an association. They used to have juice. I don't think they have juice, as much juice anymore. They work for Major League Baseball. The leagues have been dissolved. I think the delay is just figuring out a system that works for everybody. But I do think you'll see something like we're seeing similar to AAA. Where, I think this is probably the issue. How many challenges do you get per inning, per at bat, per game? I think they need to work that out. What is the consequence if the umpire got it wrong? But we're going to see a situation probably in the next couple of years, maybe 26, where Brandon Marsh, he didn't want to gripe with the umpire, but he's just going to tap his head or raise his hand or do a shimmy. But I would think he'll tap his head, and the umpire will, and boom, and get something in his ear, strike. We need to see it because that was a huge pivotal play last night, and that was an egregious miss up.
Was that his shoulder?
Yeah.
Not a hard call for an umpire.
No.
It's not down. That's got to be that was a horrible call and had game-changing implications, as did the Estevez.
Dates back to Pittsburgh too, Jim. I mean, Bryce Harper came out after the Pittsburgh series, I think that Sunday game, and was like, "This is outrageous." He went after their throats a little bit. It's just been bad, and you're right. It's probably because we have so much information.
Oh yeah, there was bad umpiring.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
They have a tough job. They
do.
They when you look at the numbers, they pretty much do a very good job. It's just that critical miss at a pivotal time in the game that you just can't miss that call. So, tap your head, challenge it, move on. That would have loaded the bases, right, last night?
Yeah.
First and second was there one out at that point? 2 outs. So it would have been first and second, 2 outs, but a single wins it or ties it.
Right.
Yeah, big play.
Big game-changing call.
We're gonna see a challenge system. I don't know when. I would say maybe sometime 2026. I think they got to, like I said, figure out the consequences. If you don't get it right, figure out how many you get, and just figure out how you're going to how the player or the bench is going to enact it, or even the pitcher is going to enact it.
Yeah, we've been seeing it across the league. It's definitely been frustrating to see how it's changing games. But Jim, on another note, in terms of injury updates, we did see Ranger Suarez was able to throw a bullpen session yesterday in LA. He's likely to throw a couple more times and possibly join the rotation after this West Coast trip. Taijuan Walker is doing his AAA second rehab start in AAA today, and he's expected to return possibly as soon as Sunday in Arizona from what's now been called that right index finger inflammation. So with those two working back over the next week or so, do you anticipate a 6-man rotation? What are your thoughts on a rotation, including Tyler Phillips, in that 6-man rotation for the Phillies?
Well, they've done it in the past. Can I say one more thing about the umpiring? Bad umpiring doesn't lose games. The Phillies have lost these games on their own. They've played lousy since sweeping the Dodgers. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, and I agree. You don't want to even leave it up to the umps. Take care of business.
Right. Okay, on to Taijuan Walker. So he's going to pitch today. His velocity was a little bit up, which was a good sign because that gives him some offset on the splitter. So it all goes well. He'll get back in the rotation on Sunday in Arizona. Ranger probably sometime maybe early in the next homestand. Will they go 6-man? They've done it in the past. It's a great way to optimize some rest for your big guns. But then again, Ranger now has had rest. Walker's had rest, so I'm not sure if they're going to do that. It wouldn't surprise me if they did it maybe later on in August or closer to September. Maybe just a one-turn type of thing. Get some guys a little extra, especially Nola, especially Wheeler, Sanchez. But like I said, now. Suarez and Walker have had some extra rest. If Tyler Phillips pitches well tomorrow, maybe that puts a little pressure on him to stick with him, but he's coming off a really difficult outing where he's really hit hard in Seattle. So I think he would, how he does tomorrow will carry a little weight in that decision. But if they think their guys need rest and everybody is healthy and they have the bodies, they could certainly go maybe for one turn to a 6th man. I don't know if it'll be like, over the course of several weeks. I think it would more or less be like one turn to just, grab the guys a little bit of extra rest if it looks like they need it. But first things first, you got to get him back. Walker's got to pitch, well for Lehigh, build on his start at Reading, get back and have a good one in Arizona, and then you got to get Ranger back. Ranger is key to this thing, really key to this thing. Needs to come back and be healthy and look like old Ranger and kind of get in attack mode, have the confidence where he has the confidence in his stuff to really attack hitters. So it's a big one, a big factor for this team is Ranger Suarez. You really need him back healthy and deal him.
And as you mentioned with Tyler Phillips, after a really bad performance in that inning and 2/3 against Seattle, a 6-man rotation with him is only dependent on if he can show tomorrow that he has the stuff to stay in the rotation. If he has another bad showing, I don't anticipate them keeping him in the rotation.
Yeah, no doubt. If you don't perform, you don't. They don't have a spot for it.
Jim, you've been around some bad Phillies teams. You've been around some great Phillies teams. All teams have skids and losing streaks. But the Phillies have not won a game since the All-Star break where they haven't shut out their opponent. How? Why? What is happening here?
You can put a lot of that on the offense, not scoring enough.
Absolutely.
It's hard for me to remember a time, and Harper's starting to warm a little bit. You can see it.
He hit last night by just putting the bat on the ball.
Yeah, Bowman's maybe starting to warm a little bit. Stott maybe a little bit, but it's hard for me to remember. And I'm sure there have been, but the whole team going cold offensively. It seems like all 9 guys. It's really been, a head scratcher, and they've lost, like you said, I think 6 straight series. A loss tonight or tomorrow will be 7 straight series. They were so good racking up series, and we do put a lot of emphasis on it and rightfully so, because if you win series all year long, you're going to go deep into playoffs. Take 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3. That's a great team, and I think they might be putting a little bit of pressure on themselves to try to win series, and that might be reflected in all these. They lose the first game of a series. And now they're pressing because they know they got to win the next 2. It becomes hard. I just see a lot of pressing on this team, individually in certain at-bats. I mean, you see it in the chase, you see it in the strikeouts, you see it try to do too much. And in Seattle, they chased a lot of high fastballs. Seattle staff, the guy who pitched the first night was very good at locating that fastball just above the letters, right at the border of the strike zone, maybe a little bit above it. And they, it's under the bat head and they can't catch up to it. And they don't lay off it. And then, you spin something away and they chase. Team has always been prone to a lot of strikeouts, a lot of chase. When they go bad, and they're going bad, we're seeing a lot of it. When they go good, they're more selective. And they do, they get on top of those fastballs that right now we're seeing them that are just above their bat head. So I do see a lot of pressing. Trey Turner is a real head scratcher. Boy, I mean, his slump last year lasted a long time. You hope this one doesn't last that long, because look at the cushion and the wins they were racking up when he was hot. Even he was out for 5 weeks, and other people stepped up. So, you know, a team can really do special things when 3, 4, 5 guys are hot, and you know, when 3, 4, 5 guys are cold, it stands to reason you're not going to do special things. And right now, you know, since the sweep of the Dodgers back in early June, they haven't won a series. They're like 5-14. It's difficult to watch. Not enough hitting, not enough pitching, not enough, you know, good work out of the bullpen. Occasionally very sloppy, and it's on these guys to turn it around. They have the track records, they have the players, they can do it. I mean, they built the best record in baseball, but you know, until last week when Cleveland sort of jumped above them, they still have the best record in the National League. But if they don't put something together tonight against Clayton Kershaw, they won't have the best record in the National League. So I know they're going to play in October. We're all very confident of that. But you want to play a certain brand of ball leading into October, and it's not the one they're playing right now.
Not at all. Not at all. We all keep hoping and waiting for when they're going to get out of this slump and get back to looking more like the Phillies that we saw in the first half of the season. But Jim, we appreciate you so much for your time, all your great work and coverage around the Phillies. And hopefully next time we talk, we're talking on better circumstances.
Actually, real quick, Jim, I just want to ask you one quick one on the way out the door. What is your early reaction to the trade deadline, guys? Estevez, Banks has been really good, and Hayes. What are your quick thoughts on all three of them?
Banks gave up a bomb last night. I mean, he hasn't – I think that was only his second home run he's given up to lefties. And I think Estevez is going to be all right. I mean, I think that game in Seattle really, you know, it's a small sample size, and that was a really tough pitch. You know, we don't know how that inning goes. They haven't got a ton out of Hayes, but, you know, it's kind of like the plan on Hayes changed. You know, it's like now he's playing every day, and, you know, we all thought the acquisition was going to be a platoon situation with him and Marsh, and possibly the combination of those two equals some really good production. But now both guys are playing every day, and Hayes has a history of, or doesn't hit righties nearly like he hits lefties, and hadn't been playing every day in Baltimore, and his contribution hasn't been maybe what you would look for from an everyday player. But I don't know that he was supposed to be an everyday player when they got him. It just sort of morphed into that. So I guess we might be judging him in a different role than we expected to, and in that role, I don't think the Phillies have gotten enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so far the three of them have been adding something at least, and they're definitely not to blame for the slump. Hopefully, we can get the Phillies core back: Trey, Bryce, Kyle, consistently. But again, Jim, we appreciate you so much, and thank you again for your time as always. And hopefully, like I said, next time we chat, we'll be talking under some better circumstances around wins for the Phillies.
All right. Well, they got to, you know, the rest of the trip is tough. You get Kershaw tonight. He's not the Kershaw of old.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, he's been hit hard lately. You got to really take it to him early. They've been scoring some early runs. Too. They've been scoring some early runs still, like they have all year, but they're not tagging on. You know, it's sort of like you get some early runs and then comatose for 5 innings. They really need to do something sustained to try to get out of this and build some momentum. We'll see, but thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Jim. Yeah, I mean, as Jim mentioned with the offense, you look at, okay, Alec Boehm's had 23 consecutive games of getting on base at least once. Great. That's good to see.
That's good.
Trey, that's solid.
Hashtag good, hashtag analysis.
Trey Turner, after going 0 for 4 yesterday, and he has now gone 9 for 60 in his last 14 games, and his average dropped from a 3.47 to a 3.08. He, with the 10 home runs in July, dropped off tremendously since then, and has not been, I mean, to the end of July and now the first days of August, Trey Turner hasn't given you anything. Bryson Stott actually gave you an RBI single. Actually, looked good yesterday. He's been quietly contributing offensively. We talked about Nick, but it's just not enough guys across this team. And even as Jim was talking about Austin Hayes, you look at his numbers.
He's been a singles hitter.
He has been. And I mean, the last 7 days, he's got a 286, 318, 476 split with a 794 OPS. He's been okay. I mean, he's had 4 RBIs in the last 7 days. Of course, we know that was all one game. A home run. He's been okay. He's been okay. It's just we haven't really seen enough consistently. And the biggest thing, and Jim was saying it on his way out, is the Phillies have been scoring first at times and then just going cold. And it does feel like the moment they drop a lead, the moment they give up runs, whatever it may, drop a game altogether, that they don't respond back. And that has been one of the biggest strengths of this team, is that every time they've taken a hit in the first half of the season, they bounce back. As of late, that has not been the case. Now today, another chance to bounce back. You're going up against Clayton Kershaw. We've got a great matchup of Clayton Kershaw, who just came back, started the season on my fantasy team. He's 0-1 in the season.
Back to 0, Tyler.
Tyler didn't hear it, so it doesn't count.
There it is.
Okay.
0 days.
He's got a 5.87 ERA because, of course, he's only pitched 2 games now.
I hear everything.
Oh, man.
He wears
Do
headphones.
you hear this, Tyler?
The headphones are on for an entire hour plus. I hear everything.
Dang it. Sanchi is 7-7 on the season with a 3. That's his nickname.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Team gave him. I didn't make that nickname up like Cake Eater.
I forgot.
Christopher
Cake
Sanchez,
Eater's better than
a.k.a.
Sanchi.
Sanchi, as they call him. I got to call him by his nickname. That's so rude not to. 7-7 on the season with a 3.28 ERA. Has been one of the bright spots of this team. He's allowed 36 hits and 20 runs in his last 27 and third innings. And a 3.15 allowed batting average and 43 road innings. The tough part is Christopher Sanchez has been really good at home. His numbers are drastically different on the road. And, of course, the Phillies are on the road tonight. But this is his second career game against the Dodgers, and hopefully for Sanchi, he gets to show that he can bring that same prowess on the mound, on the road, that he's brought at home.
He's probably been the biggest plus of the pitching staff this year, and that's saying a lot. Exceeding expectations big time, has been a stopper situationally at points this year. This is a tough spot to be in LA, but somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to give the Phillies a chance to win a series here. And unfortunately, since you can only beat teams now when you shut them out, we turn our eyes to you, Christopher Sanchez.
No
please.
pressure.
And Clayton Kershaw is probably going to be on a pitch count tonight. His high so far is 83 pitches through 72 in the first start. So a guy that's been struggling, that's a little bit older, on a pitch count. This is a great opportunity to go out and try and pounce a guy. I would expect some aggressiveness in the box tonight to try and jump him a little bit. There's really no excuse you can't win this game. And if you win this game, you set yourself up for a chance. Yeah,
absolutely. You're going up against, it's a on the rise, up and coming Christopher Sanchez versus a older, aging Kershaw, who's making his 425th career start, which is 106 all time.
What's the stupid piece they do all the time? Him and Stafford were high school buddies.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's like,
we
always have to hear
the other
about
one
that.
that's getting annoying at this point, and it was a really cool stat when it first came out. It was like, on this day, it was supposed to be Randy Johnson and Greg Maddux, but instead they both got scratched, and it ended up being a young Clayton Kershaw versus a young Max Scherzer.
Yeah.
And it was really cool, like the first 7,000 times.
We've heard that for decades now.
Okay. All right, we get it.
It's been a long time.
Show some cheesesteaks.
So he does have, Kershaw is 4-6 with a 2.76 ERA and 113 strikeouts in his career against the Phillies. As you mentioned, though, Jamie, this is a huge, huge, huge game. The unfortunate part is the Phillies keep putting themselves in a hole and having to play catch up and having to scratch and claw, which has also caused them to play a lot more panicked, uncharacteristic types of decision making, and trying to force games. If you win game one, it takes some of the pressure off that you just have to win one more. Now you're going into it thinking, oh, we got to win the next 2. We can't lose another series. It's just unnecessary thoughts, and you can't play that way. You know, I know Nick was mentioning how a lot of guys, or I think it was Aaron actually, a lot of guys aren't on the iPad as much right now. They're just locked in on baseball. Tonight, and I said this before, just focus on baseball. Focus on that next at-bat, that next pitch, that next catch, that next play, because right now this team is so in their own heads and overthinking things. And yes, we know, and we've talked about the playoff implication on the line and everything, but the Phillies need to just go out and play ball. See ball, hit ball.
Players can tell you whatever the hell they want after a game. That, oh, no, we don't pay attention to standings or out-of-town scoreboard. Bullshit. You're human. Yeah. It's your profession. It's your career. It affects you.
You think they pay? They know what's going on with the Phillies. You just expect me to believe
you're turning a blind eye to everything?
The White Sox, like they know what's going on with everybody.
Bryce Harper listens to sports radio. Like, give me a break. These guys know situationally where they are, and that if they lose tonight, they're no longer the NL 1 seed. Yep. So it is what it is. Good luck. Go get them, boys.
Let's see if they can do it and get a win today. As we mentioned, it's been a lot of losses, 14 out of their last 19 games.
Not as many as some other teams, though.
Not as many losses as those poor.
Free Herb.
Hashtag free Herb. The Chicago White Sox. I know they're also closing in on they're closing in on tying the 1961 Phillies for the longest losing streak in Major League Baseball history.
You knew the Phillies would be in there somewhere.
Phillies, of course, are always in all the history. Yeah. They're closing in on that 23-game losing streak for the Phillies, but the White Sox again lost.
Yeah.
Hashtag free Herb.
I just want to. Do you guys mind if I show? This is what their producer, who I feel terrible for the whole show.
Is this the jersey?
This is what their producer has been working on for the last 21 days. This is, first of all, this is great work.
It is phenomenal.
And second of all, this has to suck so bad.
So
they asked the company wide, what do we do now that we've completed the circle? And one of the suggestions, the Grateful Dead bears, it just keeps going and
I think it should.
And they were like,
I think you just have a vortex at this
point.
You're
just gonna have to extend it to the vortex surrounding the other circle and just keep it going.
As Frank says, the White Sox, the Chicago White Sox.
How do you support a team that is that inept and that bad of ownership?
I don't know. We don't I know how painful it is right now looking at the Phillies struggles and how after the All-Star break and even after sweeping the Dodgers, they've been dropping series after series. Can you imagine this being your everyday all year? Right? Yeah, someone's got to get fired. Someone's got to go. But we got to go. It's been a fun time hanging with you guys. Again, it's Clayton Kershaw and Cristopher Sanchez tonight on the mound. We will be back with you guys tomorrow post-game, late.
Phillies After Dark, the next 2 nights.
A lot of L's in that late nights. And hopefully the only L's that we'll be looking at are
And other good news for the Phillies, Eduardo Rodriguez made his Diamondbacks debut last night, so you'll catch him on his second start.
Yeah.
So
also picked
other teams are getting stronger, and the Phillies
I also added him to my fantasy team.
Reset the counter again. Thank you.
That being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. John, Peace, Frank, Steven, Lisa, BC, Greg, everybody in the chat. We appreciate you guys. Hopefully by the time we see you again, we'll be talking about the Series 1 for the Phillies and breaking this series losing streak. For Tyler, Jamie, myself, Renee, and our dear buddy, Jim Salsbury, thank you so much for tuning in. Let's go Phillies, get the win, and we'll see you guys next time for a post-game show on PHLY Phillies Podcast. Bye-bye.